Well, thank you very much, Chair, and greetings from Japan. My name is, as mentioned, Sikopo NYAMBE, and on behalf of my team, I'll be talking about socio-demographic and sanitation factors associated with diarrhea prevalence in peri-urban Lusaka, Zambia. And this is the outline I will follow. So firstly, I would like to introduce you to the peri-urban, or slum. These are low-income, unplanned settlements. They have low living space, high population density, and few municipalities. And this includes limited access to water, sanitation, and hygiene, also known as WASH. So globally, the peri-urban population is increasing. And with that, the WASH problem is also increasing. In sub-Saharan Africa, we have the fastest urban population growth rate at about 4.5%. And so I focused my study here, particularly in my country of Zambia. Now in Zambia, 11.4% of all deaths are related to WASH. And access to improved water and sanitation in Zambia at a national level is at about 67% for water, 40% for sanitation. At the peri-urban level, this is cut to 44% for water and only 10% for sanitation. Now, in Lusaka, which is the capital, we have 37 peri-urban settlements. This houses 70% of the population. And in these peri-urban settlements, we usually have cholera outbreaks every year. So during our preliminary research, we looked at peri-urban WASH in Lusaka, and we noted three main types of sanitation facilities, that is improved toilets, unimproved toilets, and chambers. Chambers, these could be a plastic bag, a bucket, a makeshift excretion site. The interesting thing we noted is that even when people had a toilet, they still used chambers. And we were concerned about this co-use. As we know, SDG 6 is aimed at increasing access to improved WASH, not creating an environment for co-use. Because if we can increase and improve improved WASH, then we can reduce the pathogen transmission and we can reduce the global disease burden. As such, our objectives were to identify socio-demographic and sanitation factors associated with the use of improved or unimproved toilet facilities, the use of chambers, which would be co-use, and diarrhea prevalence in peri-urban Lusaka. So we did interview surveys to collect socio-demographic data from household heads. And we also did WASH facility checks. The sample was 205, and we used the WHO and UNICEF WASH service levels. The study was done in one of two epicenters of our 2017-2018 cholera outbreak in Lusaka. And we looked at 21 factors ranging from socio-demographics to toilet characteristics, who was responsible for toilet management, diarrhea prevalence, chamber use, and WASH service levels. So for WASH service levels, we broke it down as unimproved and improved, with an improved drinking water facility being a piped water, borehole, etc., etc. For sanitation, we did the same, with an improved sanitation facility being a protected pit latrine, flushboard toilets, etc. And lastly, for hand washing, we had no facility as is, and a facility which could have a designated hand washing station. Could be a sink, a bucket, whether there was soap or no soap. So I'll quickly go through my results and discussion. So in relation to the factors associated with having an improved toilet facility, I will focus on issues of income, issues of wash, and diarrhea prevalence. So according to our findings, we found that the odds of having an improved toilet were higher for people with a regular income, that also having a private facility. And we linked this to the idea that people felt sanitation was an investment, providing them convenience and choice. But interestingly, we also found higher odds for diarrhea prevalence with an improved toilet. Of course, this should be surprising because we look at improved sanitation as a means to cut contamination. But it reminds us that the toilet is also a contamination point. So as much as we talk about toilet ownership, we need to focus on how the toilet is used and making sure people have wash education to cut that contamination. Then also, we noticed this interlinked wash system, that people that had improved water also had a hand washing facility and had improved toilets. And such is the same in the reverse, and that the system that has been set up, you need to have one in order to have or to support the other. The second result was about chamber use, and I'm going to focus on gender, diarrhea prevalence, and toilet facility. So according to our results, females had higher odds of using chambers. And many of this would be due to issues of privacy, safety, and culture. Most of the toilets were outside and pit latrines. So we have to understand that females would have different needs and different concerns when using the toilet, making chambers a better option at times. Secondly, in terms of diarrhea prevalence, it was higher if people were using chambers. Why? Because of the fecal-human contact during the use, during cleaning, and for disposal. Lastly, there was a higher odds of having an unimproved toilet and using a chamber. Now, chambers are also within the field of unimproved sanitation service level. So we found this familiarity again within similar co-use in the same service level. The final result focused on whether people had diarrhea, and I'm going to look at the number of persons using a toilet. So I will note here that there was no significance for sharing of toilets, but the more the toilet users, the higher the diarrhea risk or the diarrhea prevalence we found. From our sample, the maximum number of households using one toilet were 20. However, the maximum number of persons using one toilet were 33. And it just brings us back to the point that the peri-urban is very communal in nature. And so if everybody is sharing or using the same facility and there's contamination there, this can lead to infection spread. So I'm going to conclude by just going through those key factors. Firstly, in terms of females, that there needs to be inclusion in facility choice because of the different needs. Secondly, that as sanitation is viewed as an investment, there should be ways that we look at making sanitation affordable, whether that is through village banking or coming up with payment plans. Thirdly, that wash in the peri-urban is very communal. And that means that just because one has an improved facility, it will not necessarily stop or reduce the diarrhea risk. We need to look at how the toilet is used. We need to look at facilitating wash education as we encourage improved sanitation. So how do we best intervene? Our suggestion would be to standardize the guidelines that we have for local populations. And with that, we recommended a new sanitation ladder, which focused on high density areas. And some of the key factors that we looked at is that shared facilities should have a space within the basic and safely managed levels, based on the fact that there's limited space in the peri-urban at times for setup of private toilets. Secondly, that it should be inclusive, The toilet should be usable by all toilet users in order for it to be basic or safely managed. And lastly, that there should be a responsibility plan or rota in place, which would be backed by water sanitation and hygiene, knowledge, attitudes, and practices. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for your attention. Arigatou gozaimasu.